team's ability to refocus every week and how they've been down on testing and all of that. Has that been the most impressive thing?
I think our staff has done a good job week in and week out of talking to the guys about how important it is to come every week, and the leadership is really the guys who drive that on the team, and their buy-in right now is pretty high. So you're only as good as your last game, so we've got to keep that going. But up to this point, I think we've played with energy, but that goes back to how we've been practicing. So we're going to get out there today and have good practice.
Front row middle, Dave.
Coach, I'm sure you had high expectations for your team coming in here. What's been your biggest pleasant surprise on either side of the ball, or is anything about your team through 7 games?
Nothing, that strikes me other than what we talked about in terms of the chemistry and the leadership, the buy-in, the way the guys are working together, the energy that they have. I mean, that part's been great. And there's a great culture here right now. I think guys enjoy playing, they enjoy practicing, all those things. So that part's been great. I mean, there's a lot of things that guys have done well, but you try not to reflect too much on all that right now. You just, it's got a huge game in front of us right here. We've got to stay locked in.
Baron Browning, I know you're not going to talk about injuries specifically, but does he deal with some type of injury, or could it be something else?
Yeah, it's an injury, and he's working through it, but he looks good so far. So.
Front row left, Mitch.
Brian, Wisconsin lost a game that was not expected to lose. How does that affect the way you prepare the team, and what you say to them about Wisconsin?
We know how good they are on both sides of the ball in all 3 phases, and they got great players on both sides of the ball, NFL players, and last week is what it is, but this is college football, and so you have to bring it every week, and it's the same thing with us, and we have to bring it this week. This has got to be our best game of the year. It's going to be our biggest challenge on both sides of the ball, and we've got to prepare better than we have all year, and we know that this is a good team. They played against teams we played against, and so you compare the competition, and they've done a really good job. Obviously, it starts with the running back and the run game on offense, and then it goes to what Coach Leonard's doing on defense, and they do a great job. We've gone up against them before. We know schematically they're really good, and they play tough. They're smart, all the above.
Right behind him, Bill.
Ryan, Wisconsin's defense has first or second highest sack rate in the country. What is it about the way they play that allows them to get the quarterback so well?
They got really good rushers on the edge. Blond, does a great job in one-on-one situations. He's very active and powerful, especially in third down. And those linebackers do a great job as well of adding on or blitzing in different situations. But the secondary is very talented as well, so you have to hang on to the ball maybe a little bit longer than you wanted to. But again, it goes back to personnel and scheme. When you combine the 2 of those things, then you get what you see in terms of statistics.
And your offense obviously is playing very well, but the one number that is a little out of whack for you guys is how many sacks you've given up. And I know it's not just pass blocking, but just to hold the ball longer, trying to make something happen. But just overall, how do you feel about your pass protection? And I guess could you let us in a little bit on how you all communicate that, trying to get the right protection of guys lined up with it?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a few things that have gone on this year. Some of it's protection, but some of it also is that Justin tries to create, and he works through his reads, but then there's times where he wants to extend and create, and that's okay too. So it's not the end of the world sometimes on third down if he's looking to create if we take a sack, because there's also times like in that big third down he got 3rd and 14, he avoided a sack, probably could have thrown the ball away there. He didn't. He avoided the sack and then keeps his eyes downfield and finds KJ for a first down. So I think it's a little bit of that, but there are some things we've got to clean up in protection as well.
How do you feel with the way that Justin sees that pre-snap and how he and I guess it's Josh sort of communicate that to everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, the center makes the call, and Justin's on board with that, and then he can also trump him at any point. And they communicate that. We spend a lot of time on protection and making sure that we're identifying where the pressure is coming from, and then those guys have done an excellent job, in my opinion, of communicating the protection. And so we've held on to the ball a little bit longer this year, but that's by design.
Front row right, Austin.
When you talked about Juwan after the game, he's such an interesting athlete. You guys used him on the field goal block. It looks like maybe if you want to, you can be an extra guy at short yardage or something. Is it worth going beyond 4 games with him to come up with a role, or do you need to just have 1 more left?
He'll probably go more than 4, just because he is very talented. We want to get him in some of these games, when we can, and you know, his ceiling's very high, and you know, we want his development to continue. And I really think it's important for these guys to play. Again, we won't be foolish with this and waste a year, but at the same time, the more these guys can play, you saw that in the fourth quarter. I thought on both sides of the ball, guys were into it. We were playing hard. We were competing. I think that goes back to you know, 6 or 7 games of guys playing and being on film and getting better and having that hope that they are going to play in a game, as opposed to going through 6 or 7 games without ever actually getting on the field, and that can you know, kind of stun people's development. So you know, we're going to play them if it makes sense. We also don't want to be foolish.
Fair, he didn't look like he was full speed. I don't want to talk about the specifics there, but just getting him involved and the way he was able to respond, how significant was that, just to get him through that game? And he gave you guys a lift.
Yeah, it was gritty. It was tough. Thayer, you know, played for his teammates, which goes to show you what kind of kid he is. Great kid, unselfish. I think the day off was great for him. He's feeling good, and he should be ready to go this week.
Front row left, Nathan.
Obviously, Wisconsin is, you know, succeeded at a pretty high rate in this conference. Other schools like Ohio State's been tier of that. So this is, I think, Coach, how much do you feel like that is part of your calling or whatever here to keep a gap between Ohio State and programs like this?
Oh, I don't know about all that. I just know, you know, if you just lock in on right now, that's what matters in playing this game. You know, I think at the end of the year, you kind of come up for air and start to look at different things. But we've said all along that all we're going to do is just focus on this week and be a 1-0. And again, I know it sounds cliche, but it's real. And we got to stay locked in on this. You can't worry about what this game doesn't mean. Just worry about what we're doing in terms of our assignments. You know, motivation, guys practicing hard, you know, getting ourselves ready, physically, mentally, emotionally. They'll play a really hard game.
The Cone there, quarterback, your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think he's playing at a high level. He's doing a really good job on 3rd down, keeping him on schedule, 1st and 2nd down. He's very accurate when he throws. He's got some weapons out there, and you know, I think he's really, you know, obviously, you know, Taylor's you know, the guy that gets him going, but Cone has done a really excellent job of managing that offense, and he's a good player, and so. I think as the team goes, and it's between Taylor and Cone and the other guys that get these guys going, and then you know, Cephas on the perimeter in one-on-one situations is a matchup issue. So they have weapons, and they have a really good scheme as well.
Right behind him, Ari.
Ryan, when Justin entered the transfer portal, it was a very short amount of time, condensed recruitment almost, from like just recruiting somebody out of high school. I know you guys looked at him when he was in high school, but how much did you know about him during that short amount of time? Because it seems like very quick between portal and then now he's at Ohio State. And what did you have to do to familiarize yourself enough to know that he's a guy that you want and need in your program?
Yeah, we did a bunch of homework on him when he was coming out. You know, he was committed to Penn State, and then you know, decommitted from Penn State. And at that point, it was kind of when we got involved with that recruitment, got to know he and his family. So at that time, we kind of knew enough about him. His high school coach is somebody that I've known for a while, and you know, somebody that when I recruited, you know, the school back when I had Atlanta, you know, I knew those guys. So you know, once we saw that he was in the portal, we kind of already knew about him, knew his family, so moved pretty quick, and you know, it all worked out.
During the recruiting process, and maybe now with the transfer portal is becoming a thing, how much do you rely on evaluations as a evaluator yourself from people that work with him at the Elite 11, you know, the camp circuit? There's a lot of evaluations being done by a lot of different people, and I was just wondering how much credence you give to these guys and if it ever impacts.
Yeah, I think anytime you were trying to figure out, especially a quarterback, you use as many tools as you can. Coaches in the area, guys that have played against them, coaches he's had, teammates, and like you said, some of these Elite 11s, rivals camps, things like that, people who work, you know, with these guys, you can get great information. You know, and sometimes it's somebody who you wouldn't even notice. You know, somebody that was just kind of there, you know, watching. He's an assistant coach from a local school, and say, hey, you know, I saw that guy. And, he did something really good after the workout. He went over and did something, showed respect, shook someone's hand, or maybe the other way. And so I think that's just good recruiting. Is you ask as many questions about these guys as you can, because you have limited time, you know, in front of them, and time you can contact them during the recruiting period.
A lot of these people in those circles think that he is one of the most advanced prospects that they've ever seen. I'm wondering, what was your take when he was in high school, and from a dual threat standpoint, being equally almost as good as a runner as he is a passer, was he the most complete prospect at that position that maybe you've ever seen, or is that going too far?
I don't know. I mean, I know that he does have a lot of tools and he has a lot of talent. So I don't know. There's a lot of talented guys out there, but what they do with their talent in terms of creating discipline and skill is what's critical, and he's in the process of doing that. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I haven't sat down and thought about where he ranks with some of the other quarterbacks coming out of high school, but certainly number one recruit in the country. You get a lot of respect from him.
Third row right, Rob.
Ryan, I'm guessing the TCU game last year feels like a million years away. This arguably is the biggest challenge since that game for you. That was your first one. Do you look back to say, I have come a long way, or how you've come a long way as that coach into today? Have you seen an evolution, and in what ways?
I try not to, think about things like that when I'm driving to and from work and all that, because there's so much going on that we need to get done in terms of on a daily basis, in terms of tasks and everything like that. But that does seem like a long time ago, and a lot of things have happened since then. And again, the more you do something, the more normal it becomes, and you find your voice. But then, more importantly, you get a feel for the guys that you're with, and the staff, the players, the leaders, and it changes every day, especially when you're dealing with 19, 20-year-old kids. Every day you come to work, it changes. You might have a thought of, here's how I think the week's going to go. Then you get there that day, you're like, nah, it's not going to go that way. Here's where it's going to go. And sometimes you really get that feel about midway through the week. Here's how the team is feeling. Here's what they need at that time, and then you go from there. And I think that's good leadership. And I think that's something that I've really got a good feel for and rhythm as time has gone on. Is getting a feel for the team and their personality as the weeks have gone on.
What's the one thing you didn't see coming that is really different when you TCU to here? Maybe it's not even the football side.
No, I don't think there's one thing that I would say that just jumps off as you're asking right now that has caught me off guard. I'd have to probably think about that and get back to you, but certainly things pop up here and there that you got to be able to adjust to.
Booster meet, alumni.
I mean, the people around here are great. I love some of the people that we deal with here. They're great people. Our administration's unbelievable, and it's part of the gig. I love every part of it.
Front row far left, Lori.
Coach, the week of the Miami game, you were asked and said that you thought that this team could be something special. How much has what has happened since then convinced you of that?
I think each week I feel more and more confident about what we're talking about. But again, it all goes back to what we do this week. So I try not to get over my skis in that and start talking about all that too much. I do think that's the case. We have a special group of guys that can be great, but again, it doesn't mean anything if we don't perform week in and week out. And we have a huge challenge this week. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. These guys are physical. We're going to have to bring it in every single way. And if we just stay focused on that, all those things are going to come down the road we can look back on. But I mean, you cannot let one get away. And this is going to be as hard as it gets. I mean, these guys, are coming off a tough loss. They're going to be more hungry than ever coming in here. And I read a few of the articles saying, they have something to prove more and more now as we get closer to this game. And so it's going to take everything we have to win this thing.
So the conventional wisdom is true that a team coming off a loss is hungrier, more dangerous than a team that's fat and happy after a win?
I think that there are always issues on film. And it's really the job of the coaching staff and the leaders to make sure that we address those issues. So there were issues in the Northwestern game. Now, can we address those issues and get better from those issues and understand and be open to criticism and be self-reflective in order to get those issues addressed? Sometimes, after a loss, they're a little more, attentive to those things. And something that we've been hammering with our guys. Let's not let it take a loss for us to understand the issues that are there, because they're always there on film. And that's what Sundays are for, getting those things fixed. And then once we have our victory, maybe we move on to the next team.
Second row right, Tony.
Ryan, you and Kevin have dealt with Wisconsin. You kind of know maybe what's worked, what hasn't. What kind of value does Mike Kirsten's greatest set of eyeballs have against the defense?
Big time. I mean, he's always got really good ideas. And so always coming up and drawing stuff on the board, coming up with different things. And so it's always good to have great ideas. And that's what, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are for, is coming up with different things to attack the defense with. And then But at the end of the day, it comes down to execution and how we install that and make sure that guys are, locked in and can execute at a high level.
And then, what is the most adversity you guys have overcome this year?
I don't know if it's any one thing. There's different things that come up on a week-to-week basis, and we're gonna have them even more as we move forward. I think that some of these games have gotten sideways pretty quick, but there's nothing to be ashamed of there. I mean, guys are working really hard, and I mean we've had practices that we're not proud of, that we had to tighten up on and different things, but they're coming.
Third row left, Dan.
Ryan, when you're going up against a defense like this that's ranked #1 in the country, do you view this as an opportunity to kind of see how good this offense can really be?
I think it's always a good benchmark to figure out where you're at. Yeah, I mean this is the #1 defense in the country, so we consider ourselves to be one of the top offenses in the country. So this is find out where we're at, and so I think it is. You want to play good, and you have to make sure you take care of the ball against guys like this, and you got to be physical. You got to take care of it for sure. You got to play good situational. They do a really good job on third down. They do a good job in the red zone, and they're really physical. They got talent on the edges. So, yeah, it's going to be a challenge for our guys, and we got to answer the ball.
And you were asked about DeWan. A couple other guys, Kate Stover, Steele Chambers, they're at that 3-game mark right now. Where are you at with those guys in terms of whether they could redshirt or continue playing?
Yeah, same thing. We'll look at the game plan and see if it makes sense to get them in there to help us win. If that's the case, then we'll definitely do that. But we certainly don't want to put those guys in there and just take a bunch of reps that waste of the season.
Right behind him, Patrick.
Right. In a few of these games recently, you guys have, I don't want to say struggled in the first quarter, but maybe not put up as many points as you do in the second. I'm curious if you could take us inside the sidelines and the conversations you're having as you look at defenses, you're talking up in the box. How you make those changes that then has allowed that second quarter explosion we've seen?
Well, I think we play against good teams. We play against good defenses. Even my wife said, "Well, it was a tough first quarter." And I looked at the thing, in 10 minutes we scored a touchdown. I was like, 4 minutes into the game we scored a touchdown. It wasn't that bad, the standard's pretty high around here. We scored 52, and it's like we were really slow in the first quarter. So, okay, that's good. That's a good problem to have. Nobody rises to low expectations. And, but we play against good teams. This is another good defense. But Northwestern, I think, was the 30th ranked team in the country going in. I mean, they're good. And sometimes it takes a while to work through that stuff. And when teams are fresh and they have good schemes and everything like that, it takes a little time. But I'm glad that the expectations are higher around here.
Are you communicating? Okay, this is what we thought might work. Let's switch to this, plan B type of thing, or is that kind of the conversation?
Yeah, it's conversations about matchups, about schematics, what's going on, rhythm. Is this a good play? Is this not a good play? Where are we at in the game? Those type of things are all good to talk about.
Front row right, Bill.
Yeah, I'm assuming you watched the Wisconsin-Illinois game, right?
We did.
What were your thought process during the game? Were you hoping Wisconsin would win? Did you care?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you watch those games. I try not to root for anybody. You just kind of watch it. Like a fan, but yeah, I thought Illinois played well. I thought Wisconsin played really well at times. They turned the ball over a little bit there towards the end, and Illinois and Coach Smith did a great job of getting those guys ready to go at home. And that's college football. I mean, we've been on the other side of that, so we know all about that. But yeah, no, just watching the game just to get my eyeballs on it.
And does that kind of reinforce what you've been preaching to your team all along? Hey, anything can happen. This is exhibit A.
Of course. Yeah, I mean. Again, we know exactly what that means, and a lot of teams, are the same way, and so that's why you have to bring it every week. Yeah, it's tough, but again, there's a lot of great teams in the Big Ten, and they come, and to win a game on the road in the Big Ten is really hard. To win at home in the Big Ten is really hard. These are really good coaches, really good players. They recruit really well. They have really good schemes, and so it's hard. And it's going to be that way again this week.
And as hard as you make sure your team knows the grind, does it give you more appreciation for what you have been able to do that you haven't had even a close call yet?
I mean, I know that we're excited the way that game played out Friday night for sure, and that coming off the bye, I thought the energy was good, and the way that we finished the first half was good, and the way we finished out the game I thought was solid. So that's been great. But again, it doesn't matter until you get to the end of the season. You know, when you look back on the body of work, where are we at? You know, it's easy to say, oh yeah, we're doing great. Oh yeah, but there's a lot of football left to be played. So all that can go out the window if we don't show up again on Saturday.
Right next door, Tim.
Yeah, Ryan, following up on that, when you watch Wisconsin with this #1 ranked defense in almost every category, but then he gave up some big plays against Illinois, some basic plays. Does that, do you think, help your offense's confidence going into a game like this, that if you keep knocking on wood, so to speak, it'll be there? It could be there?
Yeah, I think we always have a good game plan going in that we feel confident about, and you know, we believe that, you know, if we do these type of things, and we do have confidence that we should be able to move the ball. That's part of who we are. But you know, this is a good defense, and it's hard to find, you know, areas to attack them. I mean, they're good in all areas, so it's going to be hard. And Illinois did find a couple things, but that's why we, you know, spend so much time, you know, game planning and making sure we go for everything.
Yeah, I was going to follow up with that question. What is it about their defense that stands out most? They seem to pretty much play you straight up more than anything because they feel like they're talented. Is it, what just stands out about their defense more than anything else?
So they're so stout up front, you know, those guys up front, Loudermilk and all those guys, or I mean, they're strong and powerful in there. So they win the line of scrimmage. They have a two-gap in mindset, and so they always always have an extra gap in there. And then in the back end, you know, I think they're very, very well coached. You know, Coach Leonard does a really good job of, you know, their leverage and the way they drive on things, and the pattern matching and all those things. So I think it's a combination of scheme and also toughness and execution.
One other quickie, when you have to play a Nicholas Petit for fourth tackle y'all started this year, obviously you'd rather play with your first team, I think, going in at least, but what is the, as you look back on it, what is the benefit of that silver lining, I guess?
Yeah, that we built depth there. That was our fourth tackle, like you said, which that's pretty amazing that we can, you know, put our fourth tackle in the game against Northwestern, against a pretty good front right there, and still kind of hang in there. You know, he didn't have a perfect game, he didn't grade a champion, but he was competing the best he could. And they are kind of, you know, supplementing him in there in the second quarter, which was great. And then we got the Wanda in there at the end. So building depth, like we talked about from day one, the offensive line was going to be critical. They were all going to play. I didn't know how they were all going to play, but they are. And it's good to see Nick step up.
Front row, middle, Joey.
You guys lead the nation in third down conversion rate for your offense. Looking back at the Northwestern game, you guys were able to convert a few third and long, JK on great yards, especially kind of one play where he scrambles and 3rd and 15. Why is that an area your offense is able to see it?
You know, I think ideally when we stay on schedule and it's third and manageable, that gives us our best chance. You know, we have an opportunity to run or pass, which is always good. You know, when you start to get into third and longs, then now it's a little bit more always going to be a pass, and they can tee off a little bit. So staying on schedule is critical for us. I think our guys have done a pretty good job of protection. You know, and Justin's done a good job of creating and giving guys a little bit more time downfield to get open. And you know, for the most part, our receivers have competed well on third down.
Flip side of that, Wisconsin's really good at third down. I think they're doing that well. What challenges will they pose for you guys on third down?
The pass rush is really good. I mean, Vaughn coming off the edges, dynamite. I mean, he's really good, but he's not the only one. I mean, they got other guys right there. They have good scheme, good coverage. They'll challenge you. You know, they're not afraid to get up in your mug and in the perimeter and challenge you and make it hard, disrupt the route. So, you know, they don't miss. You know, when they get in there, they get shot at you. They don't miss.
Just one more. JK mentioned before the season that he wanted to be the best running back in the nation. Went up against Jonathan Taylor, obviously they're not on the field at the same time. It's a matchup where both running backs are playing each other. Is this a matchup you look forward to?
You don't have to ask JK, you don't have to ask him, but I know that he's very competitive, and I'm proud of the way he's prepared and entered into the season up to this point. But yeah, he's competitive, and I think he wants to compete against everybody, you know, and the fact that he wants to be the best running back in the country, good for him. You know, that's the way you should think about it, but yeah, you have to ask him about that.
Right behind him, Steve.
Yeah, Coach, as the game was wearing on against Northwestern, you guys were scoring in 2 and 3 plays, even from 60 and 70 yards, you were hitting a big play. How do you kind of ingrain in Justin this week that it's going to require patience, and it may require 10 or 12 plays, and it will not require him forcing the ball into a bad spot, perhaps, and trying to get it into 3 plays?
I think the bigger the game, the more the emphasis on the plan to win. You know, and that's, you know, play great defense, which for us is trying to get 2 first downs and get the ball to midfield, and then possibly punt from there. and then pin them inside and play great defense and the game of field position. And then turnovers is the second thing. We got to do a great job and take care of the football. Anytime you give the ball up in big games like that, that's when it can go sideways. We got to play well in the red zone. We get down in there, got to score touchdowns. I thought we did a good job of that last week, but it's going to be even harder this week. And then we got to do well in the kicking game. Got to play well in the kicking game. So I think the bigger the game, the more the emphasis on those points, because when we've done a good job of that, things have gone well.
Right next door, Bruce.
Nobody saw Wisconsin's loss to Illinois coming. You can go through it, you can pick out interceptions, you can pick out mistakes by players. I'm sure Chris picks out things he did that he'd do different. I just wonder, with all the time you put into this, all the thought, all the planning, when you get to Saturday, how much control do you really think you have over what happens?
I think by the time you get to Saturday, the hay's in the barn, and by the time you get to that field, the work that's been done in terms of game planning, installing, practicing Tuesday on the first, second down game plan, then doing a good job on Wednesday with third down red zone, and then polishing it up on Thursday. And then from there, Fridays is all about tips and tests and film and making sure guys are prepared. Physically, it's just as much as mentally though, and so I think once you get to that point, all those decisions are made, the game plan's done, and I think that's where it's really, really important. That's what, we've been really focusing on, that once you get to the game, you kind of sink to the level of training. And I've always believed that. I don't think there's any magical plays you just pull out. It's all about how well can you execute it, how well do the guys know them, and how do they fit and put your best players in a chance to be successful.
So does that mean when you get to Saturday, you're more relaxed than you are for me? You have less control?
I get more, I'm a little bit more relaxed on a Friday because you put so much work into it. As it gets to the game, obviously you're in the moment, so adrenaline's pumping and you're kind of rolling pretty good once you get in there, just the competitor in you. But I feel the stress earlier in the week because I know that the decisions that have to be made, the plays, the installation, the execution, what we practice, the looks that we give, all those things are so critical in how well they play on Saturday.
You gave us an amusing anecdote about your wife in the Northwestern game. You haven't lost yet. Because of that control thing that you say is more of a through the week than a Saturday thing, inevitably, I assume, unless you're the greatest of all time, you'll eventually lose a game somewhere. Will you be able to handle that? Will you be able to handle that better than you handled it as an assistant coach, or will you feel more?
No, I'll feel it more. Yeah, I'll feel it more. And it's one of those things that you worry about, you feel anxious about sometimes, but all you can do is, as you get closer to the game, is just go and be aggressive as you can, and go fight as hard as you can, and just be the competitor that, when you used to play, that's what you do. And you try not to worry about that stuff, but in the back of your mind, you understand what's at stake. The people that are counting on you to do well and the expectations here, and I get all that. I told you that from the beginning, but at the end of the day, when you're in it, you can't worry about that. You just got to go as hard as you can and fight as hard as you can, and just trust that everything you're doing is going to work.
Front row left, Doug.
Along those lines, no offense to anywhere else you've been, but almost everywhere in football, losing is part of the deal, right? I mean, Boston College, or Temple, or New Hampshire, in the NFL, nobody goes undefeated. What was it like when you got here for the first time, and it was like, oh, what's the deal here, and the deal is, oh, you can't lose? What was it? Was that any kind of adjustment of, it's normal to lose here and there, but with the way this system is set up, and at a place like this, a loss can kill you.
Yeah. I guess there's a little bit of an adjustment there, but at the same time, it's all about what your expectations are, and every place has their own expectations. And if you don't meet those expectations, then it's failure. And the expectations here are as high as they can be. And you just have to accept that and figure out the culture and how that makes sense and how to put the guys in the best position to meet those expectations. And you go from there.